Look, this was a pretty tough video for me to make, not because of what I'm about to say, just because I didn't want to give up on this game. But given my limited time to play and create content, I just couldn't waste a single moment more, hoping that my next session with Beyond Divinity would finally be the one that worked. So I'm working my way through the Divinity franchise in preparation for Divinity/Divinity 3, and after finishing up Divine Divinity, naturally, I wanted to jump into its sequel, Beyond Divinity. And despite some minor issues I did have with Divine Divinity, its clunky name being one, although not Larian's fault, it was still a fun game to experience, a vertical slice of gaming history and something I spent nearly 40 hours playing through. So I gave myself about the same amount of time for Beyond Divinity, but after 6 hours, I just have to throw in the towel and move on to Divinity 2, the third game in the franchise. Trust me, I didn't want to. I tried everything to get this game to run. 3 fresh installs. I uninstalled, then reinstalled the software I used to get the game to run in the first place. Minor adjustments to my display settings, tweaks in Beyond Divinity's executable, still nothing worked. At one point, I had to bring the resolution down to the absolute minimum because Beyond Divinity struggled to render loading into Act 2, a bug persistent from its original launch. After 17 crashes, 8 of which took place in the span of 30 minutes, and still no end in sight to the performance issues, I just had to accept the fact that this isn't a game I was meant to play, at least not right now. Maybe I'll give it another crack when I have more time, but that's not anywhere in the near future. Still, 6 hours is something. Not nearly enough for an impressions video, but surely more than enough to offer up my thoughts. But before we get to that, it's well worth our time to talk about Beyond Divinity's development cycle. Beyond Divinity nearly ended Larian Studios. The company came so close to declaring bankruptcy. How's that for an opener? Just to survive and remain independent, Larian regretfully let go almost 80% of their staff, shrinking from 30 to just 5 developers. Sven Vinker, Larian's lead, then took on a job developing a children's game called Kinet Kick. Truth be told, it actually looks like a fun game, with the Wikipedia page stating it's a game featuring platforming levels and creative studios where players can create drawings, comics, music, animations, and more. Plus, in 2006, a racing minigame was added. It sounds like a precursor to Roblox, except less predatory. Larian diverted some of the funds from Kinet Kick to bring the dev team back up to 25 and kickstart production on Beyond Divinity, even going as far to use the engine for Kinet Kick to streamline the development of Beyond Divinity. Already, it's painting a pretty bleak picture, but when you add on the fact that Beyond Divinity released only 2 years after Divine Divinity, then it goes a long way in explaining why I'm facing so many issues. Even at launch, Beyond Divinity was received with fairly mixed opinions. The highest praise came from GameSpot, saying it's a faithful follow-up to Larian's Divine Divinity, offering a deep and satisfying RPG experience for fans of the genre. The harshest critics focused on Beyond Divinity being generic, paint by numbers, stale, and doing very little to justify its sequel moniker. Now we've got that all out of the way, straight away, literally from the opening cutscene, the voice acting is a huge step down. Divine Divinity wasn't going to win any awards for voice acting, but it was charming. Some of the voice actors actually did a fucking great job, and others did an average job, but it was never not fun to listen to. Beyond Divinity, on the other hand, sounds like someone making a modern dark action RPG slop title for the PlayStation Store.
Ah, Nemesis. This place was originally inhabited by the Renar, arrogant blue creatures that worship Ron. I remembered that their elders practiced drift running, which is all about opening doorways to other worlds. Our problem was, of course, that the demons have been very successful in wiping them out. One particular demon wasn't happy at all, something I could relate to.
Another big change, and there are quite a few, you get to control 2 characters now. Beyond Divinity sees us playing as a paladin captured by the terrifying demon Samuel, but same. While imprisoned in Sam's dungeon, our soul is tethered to a death knight, and together we have to survive and find a way to separate our immortal souls and, I suppose, stop Sam from his demonic machinations. The ability to control a second character is interesting, at least on paper. The Death Knight is completely customizable, at least when it comes to his class. I turned him into a mage, which made my character completely pointless when Mr. Death Knight over here would just melt most enemies before any of my hits would actually land. You also have to manage his stamina independently. Sneaking and running, it all drains stamina, and with my Death Knight now a mage, stamina wasn't one of his strong suits. It just meant for most of the game, my character just had to stand around and wait for the Death Knight and his bar to refill, or force him to chug stamina potions. Because of this, exploration just had this sour note to it. I was just constantly stopping and starting, waiting for him to catch up and hoping he didn't aggro some enemies along the way. The skill system is also completely reworked and not for the better. Rather than choosing from a selection of icons with a brief explanation of what they do, you now have a skill category, let's say warrior. You then choose an option inside the warrior branch, but only after you've learnt it from a teacher. We'll choose one-handed. So now we go warrior and then one-handed. We then choose what to do with one-handed weapons, whether you increase their accuracy or critical hit chance, overall damage, whatever you want to do. Fundamentally, it's still a skill tree, but because it's just text, my brain kept telling me I was looking at a skill tree in an early RTS title, not an RPG. Call it nitpicky, whatever, but Divine Divinity had a perfectly serviceable skill menu. Considering the shit show of a development cycle, I'd really like to know why they wasted their time at all. Encumbrance. Every RPG lover's least favorite word, and in Beyond Divinity, it's absolutely buggered. I mean, proper fucked. If I told you your maximum weight limit is 900 units, then you'd expect the total weight of your items to equal no more than 900 before you'd be stuck walking. And you would be wrong, because in Beyond Divinity, the soft cap, for whatever reason, is 80% of your weight limit. So if 900 is your max, your encumbrance limit is 720. When you hit that 80% mark, that's when you're reduced to walking only, while reaching the total limit just stops you from picking up items. Annoying is an understatement. I mean, it was downright frustrating, really fucking frustrating. And you can imagine my confusion when I just couldn't figure out why I'd be constantly getting encumbered, despite being nowhere near my total capacity. So yeah, another totally unnecessary and completely unreasonable change. One small thing to note, the UI is still an issue, although not something I brought up in my review of Divine Divinity, but the inability to sort items was a persistent pain in my ass. Now the last truly shocking change is the world design. Gone is the open world with its parallel narrative. Instead, the entire first 3 to 4 hours is spent in a single dungeon, reminding me far too much of the meandering finale in Divine Divinity. Beyond Divinity's story is separated into 4 acts, with a new zone tied to each chapter. Unlike Divine Divinity, where 90% of the campaign took place in 2 areas. And I don't know if it's just me, I certainly wasn't going around completing anywhere near as many side quests as I did in Divine Divinity, but after 6 hours, I was already reaching the climax of Act 2. To be fair, this may not be the game's fault. I'm not so arrogant as to completely blame it. It just could be me unknowingly wanting to get it over with. But in Act 2, I just stumbled across a point of no return with 0 warning. I ended up in this dungeon with no way out, and when I looked up what was going on, I realized I was 1 quest away from completing Act 2. So to pad out playtime, Larian introduced the battlefield, an entirely separate space with its own NPCs, vendors, and quests, designed for the player to level and gear up. The battlefield consists of one big open space where you can buy and initiate quests, with the main event being a 3-level dungeon. Each level of the dungeon has its own key, with the 3rd room usually housing the solutions for the quests of that battlefield. Each of the 4 acts has their own keys, meaning if you move on to Act 2 without exploring Act 1's battlefield, then so sorry, you won't be able to access that dungeon. Additionally, if you don't find all the keys, you won't be able to access all the levels, which results in a lot of backtracking. The battlefields don't appear to scale to your level either, since I was about level 10 when I finally entered the battlefield in Act 1, with most of those enemies averaging around level 6. To play devil's advocate, it's definitely an interesting way of giving the players more content, factoring in Beyond Divinity's development cycle, but it just felt strange playing through it because it was entirely detached from everything else. If it was a challenge room for completing the main quest or something to do in the endgame, that would be one thing, but as it stands, it's just something that's there. I really can't comment too much on combat or progression because, to be honest, it's not fair considering my playtime, but it felt more or less the same as Divine Divinity aside from the dual character setup. Although pausing the game provided no tactical advantage, unlike Divine Divinity where it was an absolute necessity. When I was trying to find a way to finish off this review, I decided to go back over my notes just to find any morsel or crumb of additional insight I could provide. But aside from the odd fuck this and cunt that, there's really nothing else to say. It's easy to look back and be disappointed by the follow-up to a game that was well received at the time, even with its 7,000 bugs. But I suppose we should be thankful that Sven stuck to his guns, even going as far to force Ubisoft, Beyond Divinity's publisher, to pre-purchase copies of Beyond Divinity as a method of securing funds. Without that type of determination and stubbornness, the Larian we know today simply wouldn't exist. Right now in 2026, with the gaming industry standing on a precipice, it's these studios that remain detached from the sludge of the wider AAA space that has me looking forward to playing new games, experiencing new stories, new worlds, and meeting new iconic characters. The 6 hours of Beyond Divinity that I happen to have played was nothing short of a complete shit show, and sure, depending on your rig and setup, your mileage may vary. Either way, it's not a game I would recommend unless you bought it heavily discounted. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really do appreciate it if you made it all the way to the end of this video. I'm so grateful for every view I get. It's amazing. Even if it's just a second, I can't thank you enough. I really just can't. See, I'm lost for words. Anyway, until the next video, take care of yourself out there. It's a crazy world, and see you later.